All right, welcome to Scotland. At this time, we have already arrived in Scotland, and we have already spent one full free day in Edinburgh, the capital of Scotland. So right now, we are on the coach with Stevie, our coach driver, and we are on our way to the beginning of our academic journey, which is Mid-Tory Farms. Mid-Tory Farms is a Highland beef cattle farm. It was owned by a lady and her husband who has recently passed, and they have all of the cattle that you see here, and they raise Highland beef cows for consumption, and recently she's just been breeding them and then selling them. She hasn't been sending them off to the lot or anything like that, but it's really awesome to get in here and actually get to hang out with the cows and spend time with them and actually get up close and see what farming is like for such a small farmer. And it's incredible when you look at these cows and the way that they're bred, and also the way that she raises them. And you can tell that the temperament of the cows is absolutely incredible. The cows are very, very friendly. She's actually bottle feeding this calf because the mother won't accept the twin. And so she's been bottle feeding this calf, and of course he's a little squirmish, but the calf is very, very responsive to her and also to any other people that are trying to approach it. And it's very difficult to get a calf to bottle feed like that without being in a pen. So that's definitely something that speaks to their temperament and everything like that. And then, of course, the calf is just adorable at that. And then speaking of that temperament again, you can see that we're able to just get up there, scratch their neck, and again, Highland cattle have those naturally bred. They have those huge horns and very distinctive long hair. That long hair definitely helps for Scotland because they have such cold climates and everything that long hair really allows them to be able to stand out there in the cold and just endure that cold, and they're very hardy to it and respond really well to that type. And to preface the rest of the video, we learned that Highland cattle is actually it's a very good quality meat, but it is not highly sought after for some reason, and so using Highland cattle is just a little bit difficult to raise. Coming up next, we have Blair Castle. Blair Castle is just one of the excursions that we visited. It was a very decorative castle. As you can see, all the antlers and everything on the wall. And it's also right around on the land that Blair Castle is on is also where the Highland Games are held. So that is a cool thing. And then, of course, there's some time for play. We're all in a good mood. We're not exhausted yet. And so we're having some fun rolling down hills. Susan goes after me, and it's all part of that experience as we're overseas. And of course, they found a jungle gym at the Blair Castle, so we had to play around there and enjoy that. And of course, safety first in this. And sometimes you don't always catch what's being thrown at you. All right, so here we're entering into the Moredun Research Institute. Now, this was a really fantastic learning opportunity for us there in Scotland. Moredun Research Institute is a foundation of farmers, a coalition, if you will, of farmers that are banding together to just do research for other farmers for the United Kingdom. And so they do loads of research on animal parasites and disease and stuff like that. Their main thing is disease, and so we talked about in one of the lectures, we talked about the red mite for poultry, and then we also talked about the toxoplasma. The toxoplasma is a bacteria that, or it's a bacteria that gets into your system and can take and just change the way your brain functions. So that was a really awesome thing that we got to learn from. This is Roslyn Chapel. Roslyn Chapel was one of the best excursions, in my opinion, that we did. Again, this is the second time that I went to Roslyn Chapel, and I absolutely love the chapel. It's absolutely rich in history. As you can see, the architecture, absolutely beautiful how it was sculpted. The history that is inside and buried underneath that church is just absolutely fascinating and captivating at the same time. And so there's just little facts all over the place. Coming up right here, kind of higher up, you can see up in the beams there's a beehive actually built into the pillars of the chapel. And just every single surface of this chapel right here relates to a scripture within the Holy Bible. And so it is literally the Bible in church, in a church building and a church structure. And of course, we were not allowed to video inside, but it was in a phenomenal learning excursion, as well as just something that is awesome to see. Most famous by the Da Vinci Code, which had the last scene where it famed the Holy Grail was inside Roslyn's Chapel. And the town that it's in is actually Roslyn, and the church is still privately owned by the Sinclair family. So that's something interesting. And you can see these faces that are all over the outside of the wall. And each one of these faces is up for interpretation, but they represent a different piece of scripture somewhere within the Bible, and there's just so many different inscribed faces and markings, some of them very strange and ugly, but all absolutely unique, and every single one of them is different, which makes it just a really unique chapel. And so we moved on, trying to get all of our time squeezed in through Edinburgh. So we're actually on the coach, and we are on our way up to Arthur's Seat, which is just a hiking trail, but it also has a beautiful view of Edinburgh, overlooking Edinburgh. And so it's just, there's Austin. But you can see that it's just an absolutely beautiful view of the Edinburgh area and the city and everything like that. So we went up there, just enjoyed the time. A few of us got hit by those yellow bushes right over there, and so we were just enjoying the scenery. Scotland is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful landscape. And then later that night, after Arthur's Seat, did the excursion right here.
They were known as Misters William Burke and William Hare. And it was the former, Burke, who would be executed just round the corner from this square just here, roughly about where those colourful gates are over there. You'll notice that there's a brass cobble in the pavement just as you get to the traffic lights round the corner, and that marks where the gallows once stood. Now, Burke himself was something of a controversial figure, to say the least. Technically, him and his partner here, they were not really
All right, so after that excursion, it was just an underground tour. We did the Jacobite train, so we left Edinburgh and got on the Jacobite train, which is the train that was used to film Harry Potter, and we stumbled upon a wildfire. And those wildfires, they can be a serious issue in the hills of Edinburgh, or in the hills of Scotland, especially with that yellow bush that I was pointing out, causes a lot of wildfires and causes a lot of problems for farmers because they'll have the wildfires on there. And then this is another one of those cool excursions, as you can see coming into view. That is the bridge out of the second Harry Potter movie. This is the bridge that is used in filming when Harry and Ron are trying to catch up with the train, and they actually get flipped over, and Harry almost falls. So this is the bridge, and so that was really awesome to see and actually be on the bridge and the train for those Harry Potter fans out there that got to see it. It was really cool. And then we move on to the best excursion, in my opinion, Loch Ness, way up in the Highlands of Scotland. Now, Loch Ness is the one of the most famed lochs in all of Scotland, and in fact in all of the world, as it's the home to Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. If you look real closely in my video, you'll probably be able to see her swimming out there. And we also got to tour the castle that you just saw, and we went into the castle and everything like that. So, and then moving in, we went to the Leal working sheepdog farm. And this was an absolutely phenomenal educational excursion that we did. Getting to actually see dogs in their environment that they were actually bred for. So these are sheepdogs right here. They're border collie sheepdogs. And as you can see, they are fully trained. Neil, who was the owner of the farm, the working sheepdogs, he is a world champion in how well he trains his dogs. And they were absolutely well behaved, and they even had some toys to play with. But, it was amazing to listen to him talk about how he trains his dogs. They don't get rewards. He says that his dogs have to love what they do. And he uses whistles of different sort to actually control the dogs. And he has about 18 different dogs that he's training at one time. You can see a few of them and some old ones there. And then there's actually them shearing the sheep. And it's a little early in the season to be shearing them now. But you can see how docile the sheep are and everything like that. So now we're moving on to Ireland. This is the ferry that is taking us from Scotland to Ireland, and this is the Carrickfergus Castle that we went to after we arrived in Belfast. Went over to Carrickfergus to see the castle, and went back to Belfast. But this is one of the predominant castles in the Northern Ireland area, and so I'm excited to be in a new country. I have visited Scotland before, but never Ireland, and now we are in Belfast. And in this part right here, you're going to be hearing Colin, our bus driver for Ireland, talking about all the details of Belfast and the Catholic Protestant division and we just passed the wall, that division that upheld so much history of violence and hatred for religious purposes. So right now we're traveling through that. Inside the wall is Catholic and outside the wall is Protestant, and it's still that way today. They had riots and battles and everything up until the mid-90s, and so that is something that is very, very strange. We think about not seeing any type of religious persecution in the, quote, modern day, but this is still very, very real and very fresh in all of their minds. And you can see that it's not just a wall, it is a massive structure that divides the Catholics and the Protestants. And you can see all the political graffiti on the wall, all representing whether they think the wall should be torn down or whether they think that the wall should stand and the division should continue. And Colin made sure to emphasize that Belfast is a very, very safe city. Nowadays it is very safe, but the disagreements on religion are still very prevalent. There hasn't been violence, but there's definitely animosity in people's hearts still. And Colin said that until the Catholics and the Protestants are allowed to go to school together, then that division will continue. So then we move on out of Belfast, we wake up, and we get to go to Campbell Tweed's farm. Now, Campbell Tweed was an absolutely phenomenal farm to visit. Campbell Tweed has one of the largest farms in the UK. He has about 1,800 acres. When you think about 1,800 acres, that's not a lot according to an American-sized farm, but according to a farm in Ireland, that is an absolutely massive farm. And so you can see this old burial site. I mean, he has paperwork that this farm has been in his family for almost all of history. A little bit right there, just right there, you can see just over the hill was actually where St. Patrick had a little farm during his time in Northern Ireland and in prayer. So that was Campbell Tweed, and now we move on to the Kilbride farm. Kilbride farm is going to be cattle, and so right now we don't see any cattle in that pen, but the pen is where the cows stay. It's such a cold climate there that they stay inside most of the season and only get pasture time about 3 months out of the year. And so we were actually lucky and got there when they were in the pasture. And you can see the cows were very, very hesitant at first, and then they became very docile towards us, and in fact got quite comfortable with us. They didn't allow us to touch them, but they definitely were used to humans being in their pasture and taking care of them, and so you can see that by how close the cow actually got to us. And they, at a sudden movement, they did jolt off a little bit, but that's still part of the temperament of those, which is amazing, and I think it has to do with the way that those farmers handle those animals, which is impressive, to say the least. And then we move on to Mass Direct. Again, right out of the door in Ireland, we were filled with academic excursions and stuff, so Mass Direct is a really awesome. It was a family farm, and in 2003, the family recognized the market, and they recognized that they had to attack that market because they were no longer having profit in just regular farming, so they decided to do vegetables, and then they decided to take that vegetables up a notch and make ready-to-eat meals that are on the shelves in grocery stores, which is very cool. And then we get to High Bank Organic Orchards. High Bank is an organic orchard that grows apples and takes that apple and produces it into cider, vinegar, brandy, and gin. And they are totally 100% organic. The only thing they put on their ground is manure. And you can see some of their products laid out there, and then they actually mash all the apples, and they have the still in the farm itself, and it's built on an old castle ground. So there you can see the still that is there to actually make the hard ciders and the gin and stuff like that. And then we stopped for the few nights in Kilkenny. So that's the Kilkenny Castle and the river that we stayed on, and our hotel's right there. So it was absolutely beautiful over there. Then we had a full day for excursions, and as we were driving towards the Cliffs of Moher, we see Donald Trump's golf course that he owns, so that was pretty cool. And then this is the Cliffs of Moher, and this is plaque that's in memory of those who have lost their lives on the cliffs. The cliffs are very, very dangerous, absolutely beautiful. And there they are, just absolutely gorgeous. You can recognize this part right here as one of the scenes that's filmed in Harry Potter. And then you're not supposed to get very close to the edge. Sometimes you got to get that good shot. But the cliffs are absolutely a straight drop down and beautiful, beautiful landscape to go on. And once you get past a certain point, you're no longer on a wall, and there is just nothing between you and the bottom. And then Colin, our bus driver, actually took us to a beautiful pit stop, which is a creek running through a mountain. And so we took about 15-20 minutes and just wandered around, got some awesome footage of the landscape, just roaming through those mountains, getting to see how the landscape actually is, and get out there and run around and stretch our legs was a wonderful part of the trip. Just having that insider knowledge to find a good spot to stop, take a break, and roll on as we're traveling through to different places. And there's part of those mountains that are absolutely wonderful to look at. And there's a beautiful view. I mean, the landscape of Ireland and Scotland is just breathtaking. And I know that, stuff like the mountains of North Carolina are breathtaking and everything, but getting to see a different country and getting to see that that's the homeland of so many different people from you is just, it makes you be in awe of what's going on, and helps you realize that you're not the only person, or America isn't the only country, and you can learn so much from other countries. And just by going to them and driving on the wrong side of the road, or the right side of the road, whichever you prefer. So after that, we went to the Powerscourt Estate and Gardens. Now, Powerscourt was ranked third internationally as the best gardens in the world. And it really was a beautiful place. Unfortunately, as we were there, Ireland had just experienced a very harsh winter. Every farm we went to actually told us that they are behind. They are very behind in their planting, in their growing, and everything like that. The winter and the snowstorms was just so harsh that it made everything really, really difficult and made everything run behind. And so the same is true of Powerscourt. When you're dealing with things of growth and tilling of the land and everything like that we have to do for agriculture, you're going to have to deal with the consequences of the fact that you don't control the weather. And so that actually happened at Powerscourt. There just wasn't many things in bloom, but it was still an absolutely beautiful campus. It was fun to just get out and walk around and check out such a big estate. The fact that a family could actually own so much land and such a massive estate is just kind of mind-boggling to some of us North Carolinians. And then again, just getting in nature and getting to enjoy the beautiful views that we see all around us. And then even massive trees. I love looking at trees and everything like that. So that brings us to the University College Dublin, our university tour. These are the unofficial mascots of UCD. The swans that stay in the lake, and you can see that they don't like us being near their young. And I also didn't know that the young of the swans actually ride on the mother's back like the one is doing there to the right, which I thought was really, really cool to see. But yeah, that's the unofficial mascot of UCD. And so what we did was we took a campus tour. The campus is about the same size as NC State, maybe slightly bigger as far as population goes. And so we toured the campus, got to see what university life was like in another country, in the Republic of Ireland. And we also got to tour some of their farms. These farms are